Good evening from New York. I am your host, Selwyn Collins of CWS Journeys. The sole purpose of having these conversations is to inspire others, to give others an opportunity to see that even when you fall, you can get up. So I always invite my guests to imagine a young person listening to them and listening not only to their successes, but how often they got up when they fell and also their challenges. And to imagine that person being able, being inspired to step beyond their limitations and their challenges and becoming someone that make a positive contribution to society. Our guest this evening is Jahna Sebastian, who is a multi-talented person from the UK. Her music has been featured on Singer's Room, All Hip Hop, Your Web, Bossip, Madame Noir, Stupid Dope, Ouch Magazine, Jack Thriller, Paper Cut Magazine, etc. The sultry songstress also headlined Baltic Summer Festival and released her EP, I Am Free. She recently graced the August cover issue of First Fit newsletter, and it is currently available on newsstands and bookstores. Ms. Sebastian has been hard at work filming music videos, performing at shows, and taking interviews. I'm just going to get right into it. The lovely lady next to me is Jahna Sebastian. Jahna, good evening and welcome to CWS Journeys.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Jahna, I just want our audience to know that I'm really humbled by your presence because you're 6 hours ahead in the UK
Yes.
and you took the time to stay up with us. So thank you for that. Jana, behind the accomplishments, the titles, the awards, how would you describe this woman many have come to know as Jana Sebastian?
Well, I'm definitely very passionate. I'm trying to always stay true to myself, both in real life and in my career. Very enthusiastic, as described by people that I work with. And I always try to stay positive, and believe in the best, and if I see um, something that can be fixed, I just go and do it. I'm a go getter, and I'm just used to basically living life to the fullest.
I like
That's me.
that. Born in Russia, I understand, then now living in the UK. Can you
Yes.
describe your journey to the UK for us?
Well, I moved to UK at the age of 20. I just finished university at that point, and I was actually the youngest to graduate from the Academy of Music, Russian Academy of Music. So it was like an overnight kind of situation where I just quickly moved, literally with no family, like had to make a new start from scratch in London, find a job, start my career all over again. It was due to certain things that happened in Russia. And yeah, I had to make this big, massive change in my life. And I can see that my life is split into two parts, my life in Russia and then in UK, and they're completely as if I've lived like two separate lives.
These
Yeah.
two vastly different cultures. What are some cultural differences that stood out to you that you know sort of yeah that really stood out for you when you got there?
Well, number one thing is that I felt more at home in London on the first day than I have ever felt at home in Russia. Even though I'm a part of Russian culture, obviously, my mom is Russian, and but I don't know. Like the main thing was obviously the one of the reasons why I moved. Main reasons, one of the main reasons why I moved to London was racism in Russia and the fact that I couldn't literally come out on the street out of my house and just go like literally and buy bread without being threatened and without being in fear for my life. And when I came to London, I could blend in, I could live a normal life. It took me about a month to get rid of the habit of looking over my shoulder. you know. um, So because it's so multicultural, it's literally every nation you can find here in London and in the UK. And obviously the music has been influenced in such a way. So it's a much more diverse society that someone like myself to feel literally at home.
I want to explore your early timeline a little bit. Take us into Russia and give us a glimpse of life at the age of 8. What was life like? And also at the age of 15.
Right. At the age of 8, we're talking about 90s in Moscow. So this was just a couple of years after Soviet Union collapsed, and Russia tried to establish capitalism. So go straight from communism into capitalism that they hated, right? That they tried to escape for 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
Two completely different systems, because communist Russia was attempting to follow Karl Marx, on the way to socialism and equality and those ideas, and they failed. Because in real life, it's very hard to actually follow through Marxist theory. So when Soviet Union collapsed, and obviously that country was a country where you couldn't have a business, you could not own property, you could not own anything. You belonged to the state. Like everything belonged to the state. Now you're moving into capitalism in the 90s, too quick, and all they try to do is like copy some laws from the West, the Western countries, and adapt them to Russian society. And it was just madness. It was mafia all over the place. Most people had no jobs, and so it was like part of the country was in shambles, and another part was, like rich, like newly rich people who got their money through the mafia, shooting around. You had terrorist acts all the time as well, because Russia was at war, with different parts of former Soviet Union. So it was like a very weird time to grow up in, because, like I went to a school where it was in central Moscow, but it was you had children of very mixed background. So even though I was like in the first school, I was like the darkest person in the whole school and in the area.
What?
Yeah, because there was no people of color, or even people who even mixed race people or anybody. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it was really weird. And then that was one thing, is that I used to grow up like thinking, why do I look different? Do you know what I mean? Like in a way, because on TV and people around me, they all were Russians, or like ethnic minorities from Russia, but they look nothing like me. so so I created a story that I was an alien, and I created my own planet. Told everyone that I came from there. I invented my own language. So at about the age of 8, I used to come to school and teach my classmates that language.
so, so you discovered creativity at a very early age.
Yes, that's right. I think because of that, I was literally living in my head, because I could not adapt to the world around me, as much as all the other kids could growing up in Russia. I had a very vast imagination. I used to daydream and just imagine myself somewhere else. So yes, that's probably what sparked the creativity.
So what happened at 15?
At 15, basically at 15, I finished school, and I graduated 2 years earlier, because I did a special program, and I entered Russian Academy of Music. And this was actually, there was an incident. This was like a turning point as well around that time of my life, where that I had an incident in my area, and I lived in central Moscow, so it was not supposed to be like a scary part of Moscow or anything like that. However, I was in the tube station, and I was chased by 3 skinheads, Russian neo-Nazis, who were screaming, and shouting, and following me, trying to run after me with some things from construction and building sites that they were carrying around. And I was running like really scared. The police did not do anything. They were just standing there checking someone's documents. And I was lucky to jump into the crowd going up the escalator. And this is how I escaped. But when I came home, I realized I can't, I really need to at least start training, doing something, because the fear was just there. And I realized that, that I needed to do something about it. And I started doing Muay Thai and boxing in a notorious underground fight club.
I saw a clip of that. I wonder if your audience knows how fierce you are in the ring.
Yeah, actually, at one point I did fight the champion of Russia.
Wow. So
it was at a party, which was ironically enough called the Fight Club.
My God.
But yeah, and at that point, I also started, realizing how bad racism is as well, in Russia, because it was around that time that it started getting more and more severe and more organized. And yeah, that was the start of my journey towards, fighting against it as well.
So here you are at 15. Brilliant, of course. Your Academy of Music, Russian Academy of Music. You had all these creative excursions in your head from 8, 9, I guess. And so at 20, you went to the UK, right? You migrated.
Yes.
Now here you are, a songwriter, producer, actress, all these things. All these things are a combination or a convergence of some creative expression. When did all this creativity actually manifest for you?
I guess I was always like that, but it manifested in different ways. When I actually have a very good memory. I remember myself from the time I was a baby. I don't know why. So I do remember when I started singing, and talking and walking. And at the same time, I started drawing. And actually, I was drawing pretty well, to the point where, like, at the age of 3, my drawings were exhibited at galleries, in Russia and abroad as well. Yeah. So everybody thought I'm going to be a visual artist, and I actually wanted to be that. And I guess my mom saw that talent in me first, and then when I was 7, 8, I started playing the instrument and started going into the orchestra, attending the orchestra, and we were performing on stage. And this was the first time when I I think that was the mindset, the producer's mindset was there already, because the orchestra, you play in different parts, right? And the conductor puts it all together. That's what really the producer does. Now when I'm making beats, in Logic, I imagine I have an orchestra in front of me and I'm a conductor, right? And I make everybody they're all the instruments, the plugins, they're all real people.
So how did music pull you away from visual arts?
Pardon?
How did music pull you, or how did music won the battle between against visual arts? You said you wanted to be a visual artist, but you end up, in music, singing, producing, and performing. How did music win the battle?
I guess by the age of 11, I realized that I was playing music in the orchestra and I enjoyed it. I was singing and I was asked to perform at school at every single, show or holiday or whenever somebody important came in. And I realized that was my passion, and I started writing poetry and lyrics around that time as well. So I realized that music was kind of uniting all of those things together. And I loved performing on stage. So I realized that music kind of put all of those skills that manifested later as well into one, into what Jahna Sebastian is today. Where with visual arts, I think it kind of transcended further into the fact that I'm still a very visual person.
Right.
When I create my music videos, I have the picture in my head straight to the song. I write the script, I know what's going to happen there, so I co-direct them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know visually how to put things together. So I guess at some point I'll come back to professionally doing, the visual
So,
art.
so you said you can remember as far back as a cradle. I wouldn't doubt you, and I'm not going to say anything on the air. But um, music.
Yeah.
When did this intimacy with music begin for you? At what age?
Um, well, I think the thing is, when I was a baby, right, my mom used to put me right next to the speaker and play everything from Michael Jackson to Bob Marley to Mozart, you know. And I just remember that music was always around me, really loud. And I used to sing to it as well. My mom's friends used to say, "You're crazy! Like, this is a baby. What are you doing?" But I just remember that music was always there in our house.
Mhm.
And from the time I started walking, I always, the minute I heard a song, I'll be dancing to it, and I would automatically remember all the lyrics to all the songs on the radio, all the songs in the cartoons. My mom always says, like, I was just also like just constantly singing and singing along, or just singing to myself. So I think like it's just pretty much just, from that time.
When
uh,
you when
but
you Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
but then um, you know, around probably 10, 11, I think that was like the around the time when I first like started buying records,
Mhm.
uh, on the breakfast money that I was saving to buy them. Like I didn't need the breakfast, so I bought the records instead. And I remember like listening to music from a producer's perspective at that point as well. So I would separate the sounds, how the bass goes with the kick, and where the hi hats go, and what's the effect on the vocals and the strings. Like I'll separate the sounds. I won't listen to it as just, oh, that sounds nice, like, and move along. I'd actually hear the details in there, just the same way as I would be taught. Um, Later on, in production classes, how to listen to music as a producer and
And, and
analyze.
and your writing of songs, how did this happen?
Yes, so I started writing poetry at around the age of 11. And then, yeah, like slowly but surely, by the age of about 14, I kind of like moved on to putting that down to melody. And when my dad bought me the computer, I straight away found out that you can actually make music on it, right? My dad always was fearing that I'd just be playing games, but that was not the case. The minute I found out that you could make music on it, I found it out on the internet. There was like no one around me, literally, who could actually mentor me or teach me or tell me what to do. Um, I started dreaming about like, oh, I need to get this software. So I got like Fruity Loops 2.5, the computer program, and started like trying to play around because I just wanted to see how I can now put the music and the lyrics in my head, actually put it down, um, and how I can actually make the background music and the beat behind it. So I just wanted to get deeper and deeper into it,
Well,
more and more.
let me explore your songwriting a bit. Um, you mentioned racism earlier. You mentioned being attacked by some skinheads. So you've had these life-changing or rough experiences. Would you say, or how much of your experience goes into the songs you write?
A lot of my experience goes into the songs I write. It either goes directly into them or it kind of is mixed with something that I've read or I've seen, or like a collective kind of experience that I feel loads of
What
people have.
what was your first introduction to racism in the UK?
You mean in Russia?
Well, let me rephrase that. Did you ever experience racism in the UK?
In the UK, I know some people say who live here, like, oh, there's also something like that. But to be honest, the severity of racism that I experienced in Russia um, made me kind of see what people complain about here as nothing, to be honest, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, because in Russia, it was, you would fear for your life, like literally. Like the person will come up to you from the back and just shoot you, you know. That's it. So you
Wow.
know, that was racism there. To me, as long as, even if the person is undercover, doesn't like me or my skin color or my ethnicity, and like pretending like what they call benevolent racism or something, as long as they don't come and shoot me, you know, or attack me, you know, I really don't care as much, you know, as some people do here. So to me, like the level of, you know, of things here is more, maybe just some people don't accept each other as much as they could, and that's just the nature of things. However, they're not aggressive to each other. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't come out on the street and somebody's gonna just, you know, punch you in the face, whether you're a girl or a child or
You
a man.
said you said know your love, know your passion, know your truth.
Yes.
Why are these principles important to you?
Uh, because I have fought a lot for everything I've been passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
including, right, even the music itself. My parents did not really want me to do it professionally when I was a child. Like they were okay with me just studying, you know, and doing the instruments, but they wanted me to get a real job, you know, like that means a manager in some corporation, um, or you know, I don't know, maybe in IT, because my dad, you know, he's very interested in that. But they saw like music business as very weird place, you know, and unstable, and too many crazy creative people in there and things like that. So they did not see me doing this, and I had to literally fight in the beginning, until to the point where I brought my mom to one of my first gigs with my original lyrics, and I put her in the VIP, you know, on this event, and she realized, okay, now she can't really move me away, you know, from that point. Like she realized that's it. So I've been fighting for my choice to do
Mm-hmm.
music, um, to the point that my parents, they wanted me to do something else in the university as well. They did not want me to go to university, and I found like a compromise. Um, and since I've been in the UK as well, going through uh, loads of different things that could have put me off um, music, uh, anything that I love, you know, even maybe even put me off enjoying my life. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I always realize, no, like I'm passionate about life. I'm passionate about the arts and music, and no matter what, no matter how low I could go, no matter how bad the situation could be, I'd still go back to what makes me inspired, what is passionate, what I feel passionate about. So in my darkest days, I've always went back to music, and that would bring me back up in life. You
And what
know,
would you say is your truth?
um, the truth is that I pretty much, you know, what I am what you get. You know, is the fact that I'm not trying to play some other persona. I know that sooner or later, if you lie and try to create a um, different persona that you are, especially in the public eye, it will come out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the truth is that I try to, first of all, like with try to stay true to myself. That's one thing, and another thing is staying. Like whenever I come across any situation, I dig really deep, you know,
Okay.
and try to find out what's real. And with the people that I know, I usually tell them the truth as well. Sometimes I've lost a few friends as well because
So
I
if you were not doing what you're doing today as a career, what would you have liked to have tried?
um, well, before I say that, I'd like to say that what I'm doing now as a career is not only a career, but it's part of my life
Right.
and it's part of my purpose. You know, no matter how big it sounds, but I
Right.
just feel like I'm really in my place.
Yes.
So I'm really occupying what I'm supposed to occupy on this planet Earth, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So anything else would be kind of like an addition, and I could still pursue that later on at some point,
Right.
right? But I was always like interested in computers, you know, and kind of like anything to do with programming as well. So I could possibly be a coder.
Oh, so you love the computer, don't you?
I wanted, when I was, I don't know, 13, 14, I used to read this magazine called Hacker in Russia, which was sold openly on the magazine stands. Actually, there were articles there about hacking into computer systems, you know, and websites and emails and things like that, and building, you know, all kinds of like literally being the anonymous, you know.
Mm.
So so that was my kind of.
So tell me, your parents in the beginning weren't too keen in you pursuing this particular path. How were you able to convince them that at least it's it's okay and to accept what you're doing, or have they accepted?
Well, the first thing is that I had I made a compromise with my mom, you know, in terms of the university because she wanted me to go to some other university. So I kind of like I went to study, you know, music business. So it's kind of in music university, but it's business,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Mm.
still kind of related to a real job, you know. And by at that point, to be honest, my dad he left us when I was 15, and I haven't actually seen him since that time.
Mm.
So I did not have to convince him since that point because he was not a part of my life at all. So he did not influence my life in any way. And when we started speaking again, he kind of like was presented with the truth, with reality. This is
Mm.
what I became, you know, a few years down the line, and this is it. So he had to accept it because the truth was right in front of him.
Talking about